Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Chris here from Fake Sports News, back at it again with another video. Today, I'm going to be bringing you guys a super quick recap as to what happened during the Stage 5 Major on Championship Sunday. It was a doozy, as well as what you guys can expect going to day one of CDL Champs, which starts, of course, in just a few hours as you guys are watching this. So looking back on the Stage 5 Major, you guys can see based on the graphic I have here on the screen, I had Optic making the run and losing in Grand Finals to Minnesota, map 9. So looking back to Sunday's matches, of course, that being Championship Sunday of the Stage 5 Major, it was an absolutely historic day. We, of course, kicked things off with Optic Chicago taking on the Dallas Empire, and Optic walked away with a 3-1 victory in this series. Every map outside of the opening hardpoint, that, of course, being the Moscow hardpoint, was extremely close. Map 2 was a round 11, which the Empire won. And then map 3, of course, was a game 5, or excuse me, a round 5, which Optic, of course, won. And then the map 4 was, of course, a 250 to 203 rate hardpoint, which Optic obviously walked away with, which gave them the series in a 3-1 fashion. It was a great showing for Optic, definitely a great rebound for them, and it secured a top 3 placing, which they sorely needed after having such a rough season. Now, in the next matchup, we have the Toronto Ultra taking on Optic Chicago, and it was a much different story for Optic in this series. They put up a very valiant effort in this series. The map 1 Gary hardpoint was 250 to 245 after Optic got broken at P2, and I believe it was 205-ish to like 245, and then Ultra broke, held for the rest of the time, didn't even have to wait for P3. They just won it there, and they played really smart, and they closed it out very convincingly in map 1, and that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, in my opinion. If Optic won that map 1, they definitely would have swept the series, in my opinion. But of course, Toronto was able to win that map, and then they were able to regain. They of course lost the next map, that being Moscow S&D, which is one of Optic's best S&Ds in round 11. Super close series, and then they blew them out on the map 3 Raid Control. It was a 3-1 in favor of the Ultra. And then they closed it out on Checkmate Hardpoint, which is Optic's best hardpoint all year long, 250-148. Formal just had a bad map, and there it is. Now moving on to the grand finals, of course, it was a much different story for the Ultra. I guess you could say they got Ultra tilted. They Ultra lost full. They won the first 4 maps. Map 1, Checkmate Hardpoint, was 250 to 34. Absolutely blew them out. Thunderclapped, whatever you want to call it. Map 2, Moscow S&D, 6-1 for the Ultra, up 2-0 in the series, right? Map 3, Raid Control, 3-0, smoked, mollywopped, mopped. Map 4, Raid Hardpoint, 250-194. This is where the Rokkr started to show life. The next map, of course, being Miami S&D, Rokkr win at 6-3. Then you get into a Gary Control. Rokkr win that, 3-1. Then map 7, Standoff S&D, one of Rokkr's best S&Ds, also one of Ultra's best S&Ds. Ultra loses 6-2. I really thought Ultra had a really great chance of taking it in that standoff. That's been one of their best maps throughout all of Stage 5 and since it was introduced to the season. So there's just a little aside. I believe they were like maybe 6-1 going into that, and Minnesota pulled it out even though their record was significantly weaker. It might have been like 3-2 or something, but it was definitely a lot weaker than Toronto's. It like really stood out. It was like 6-1. So Minnesota won that map 6-2, of course. Then they chained it going into the APOC hardpoint, which has been one of Minnesota's better maps all year long since it was added to the rotation. They won at 250-165 to take us to a map 9 where Minnesota win Raid S&D 6-3, and they win the chip. Now, you guys know I was backing Minnesota to win it all the way based on their performances Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I was like, these guys got the chip in the bag. I don't care how many maps they play, they're going to win it. And honestly, I was right. I was dead on with my call. I said 5-4. I had a feeling it would go last map. I didn't think they'd go down 0-4 and make the greatest comeback in COD history. But when they went down, I did think they had a good chance to bring it back. And I'm happy that they did. It was an incredible series, historic. I'm happy to see that they made the run. And I got to wear the jersey while they won. So it was a good feeling being able to support that team. Those guys work hard, and they are consummate professionals. Hats off to all the players on the Minnesota Rokkr, and congrats on making history. Now, on the topic of the Rokkr, I'm happy that I talked about them because they are kicking off champs tomorrow, and they're playing a team that they have the most repetitions against, apart from Toronto Ultra. Of course, they have a losing record against Ultra, but they're 3-3 against Empire. So that's very encouraging for the Minnesota Rokkr, and also something that's very encouraging. The only time that they beat the Empire in hardpoint outside of the Stage 2 major, where they won 2 hard points to beat the Empire there, they won 2 hard points and lost to S&Ds. They lost through the 2-3-5 method in the Stage 2 major against Empire. But back to the main point, the Rokkr, their only win against the Empire in hard point in the last, I guess, 3, 4, 5 months has come in Stage 5. So the last time they played the Empire, of course, that being in the winners bracket, they beat them 3-1, and they won the last 3 maps in the series, right? They had a gentleman sweep after map 1. Now, the interesting thing to note is that broke a 8, like an 8 map losing streak for the Rokkr. They hadn't beaten Empire in a single hard point since the Stage 2 major, which is insane to think about. So they're really picking up at the right time, because when you look at their records against the Empire in the other game modes, it's not even close, right? Like, they have a 4-2 record in Control against Empire. They've beaten them 3-2 on Raid Control. That's the only time they've ever lost to the Empire in Control. They're undefeated on Gary, of course, being 1-0. It's a very small map set, but still, it's significant. They've beaten them 4-2 in the Control throughout all of their roster changes throughout the entire season. They're consistently better than the Dallas Empire in Control as far as we've seen. Additionally, in Search and Destroy, they're 6-3, and a lot of their victories over the Empire came through the 2-3-5, as is reflected in the data. So this is going to be a very interesting series now that Minnesota's really cleaned up their hard point. Realistically, this could be a sweep for them if their hard point is on point, but honestly, I think the Empire will take at least 1 hard point, and their Search and Destroys look to be so good in the last few weeks. Even though they've had their hiccups here and there, I do think Empire take at least 2 maps. That's why I think it's Game 5. I think Rokkr will walk away with the Game 5 victory, but I think likely the Empire come out hot. They win map 1, Minnesota rebound map 2. I think the Rokkr come out hot, win map 1, Empire reset, regain, win map 2, then Rokkr win map 3, of course, improving to 5-2 over Empire overall, and then Empire win map 4, forcing a Game 5, and then I think Game 5 Rokkr win. So I think it's a 3-2 for the Rokkr, just based on their recent form and the recent form of the Empire. Of course, they went 1-2 in the major, so that tells me that Rambo Ray will likely be cracking the whip on the youngins, saying, hey, get in line, do what I say, and we'll win. We'll go back-to-back with a new player added to the mix. And I think Dallas will make a decent run at this tournament, but I do think that the Rokkr, in the form that they are currently in, with their teamwork and their intangibles being kind of in a different tier right now, I think they win this series 3-2, and I think it's going to be a great way to kick off champs. And I think it's going to be a really interesting storyline having our defending CDL world champs in the losers bracket to start off the major in the first match. Regardless of what happens in this match, the storylines are going to be absolutely insane. We'll have either our defending Stage 5 champion dropping into the losers bracket or the defending CDL world champs after the first match. Absolutely insane. The stakes couldn't be any higher to kick off the tournament, and I'm really happy that the schedule actually opened up this way. In our next matchup of the day, we'll have Optic Chicago taking on the New York Subliners, and this is another series where the teams in the season series are deadlocked at an even count. So Optic is 2-2 with the New York Subliners, but personally, I think Optic will make it 3-2 on the season series and 3-2 in the series itself. Now I'll tell you guys why in a second. Looking at the stats here, the thing that really swayed me to think that Optic will win tomorrow is the fact that they do have a recent hardpoint victory over the New York Subliners, albeit with Diamond Con. But I do think that having a recent victory over the Subliners and just having a little bit more comfort playing this roster all year long and knowing how they match up knowing how they match up against this team, knowing that they match up very well, and knowing how to play against them, having that time, and just, of course, the recent break for the Subliners, I feel like it helps Optic out, right? Optic has been playing really, really well together. They had the COVID scare. They're going to be really, really on one trying to win this chip. They almost didn't get to go to the event, Envoy and Scump. Obviously, we know they had COVID recently after the Major 5, and they were testing positive up until maybe 2 days ago, Monday, as of the time of recording on Wednesday. So it was very scary for them. And I think with that in mind, they'll be looking to really do something incredible, right? They almost didn't get to go to the event. So I think with that in mind, they'll come out really hot. They'll play their game. And I think the Subliners will definitely come out hot trying to play their game. Clay's looking to go back to back to back. Obviously, he'll be the first person to ever do that. There's only a handful of COD players who have ever gone back to back. Not even a handful. There's only a couple. So we'll see if Clay can do it, if he can be one of the one of the first to ever go back to back to back. I'm really curious to see that. I hope he does, just for the storylines, but I want FaZe to win. Obviously, you guys know that. That's my primary option. I want to see Simp and BZR season Cell walk away with the chip, but if Clay won, I'd be happy for him too. But enough rambling. Looking at the stats, of course, Optic and New York are very, very close in terms of their map counts. New York has a slight edge in the hard points. Obviously, they got significantly better after adding Hydra to the fold. So they currently lead Optic 3-2 in the season series. They're tied on Moscow. Of course, Optic beat them on Checkmate. That's their best hardpoint combination. And New York beat them on Crossroads when Diamond Com is on the team. And they also beat them on APOC. APOC is a very, very weak map for Optic Chicago and a very strong map for the New York Subliners against certain teams. In S&D, they're dead even. Of course, they've traded on Express. And, of course, Optic has lost Gary to New York the one time they played it. And then Optic beat them on Moscow. Moscow, of course, being one of their stronger maps. And then looking at the control, of course, they're even on Checkmate, which is Optic's strongest control map, I believe. Or maybe it's Raid. I think it's Raid. And then, of course, Optic is 2-0 on Raid. So, yeah, they're their strongest map. They're 2-0 against Subliners. And total, they're 7-6. So it's a very, very close map count. But based on the fact that Optic 3-0'd them the last time, and I think they have more comfort, and they just have more time as a team, right? There was no break for any of the players where they said, hey, I need to take some time off for personal reasons. And there's no break, right? So they've just been a cohesive unit all year long. Subliners had that break. They had a little bit of turmoil, if the rumors are true, behind the scenes because of it. And, that's kind of hard. Like, you didn't play with a person for 3 or 4 weeks. So maybe there are some tendencies or some bad habits you picked up playing with your substitute player. And, of course, Desi filled in not long before that. So they've just been in a lot of turmoil throughout the year. Very unfortunate situation for the Subliners. And I think that will affect them to a degree. Just not having those reps as consistently as the other teams have been playing together all year long, like your Dallases, your FaZes, not Dallas, obviously, they had a roster change, but you know what I'm saying, since stage 3, right, most of the year. So I think it's going to be an uphill battle for the Subliners. They could win this series. They are one of the best teams in this game, and adding Clay back into the fold gives them that potential that they really have to win this chip, to be a dark horse, to make the run. But as it stands, in the form that Optic was at the last major, I think they win this with a 3-2. And I think both teams walk away with a 3-2, Minnesota and Optic. I'm thinking that they both win tomorrow. Hopefully I don't pull a Chael Sonnen like I did multiple times during Stage 5 and get everything wrong. But we'll see tomorrow, my time, today, your time. Hope you guys enjoy all the matches. I'm so excited to be back for another COD Champs. I always love making COD Champs videos. We get such crazy clips. I throw them in here. I get my reactions. I'm going to tape some of my reactions to the crazy matches. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy all the matches that go on today, tomorrow, the next day, and of course, Champs Sunday. And I'll catch you guys on the next video. Be sure to stay tuned to the channel for coverage throughout the weekend. And of course, be sure to follow me on Twitter if you haven't already. Instagram, the handle is @FakeSportsFans on Twitter, FakeSportsNews.com_com on Instagram. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy all the COD, like I said multiple times already. Keep babbling. Hope you have a great morning, noon, or night wherever you may be on this beautiful planet. And I will catch you guys on the next video. Once again, this is Chris from Fake Sports News, and I'm signing off. Peace. Happy to see you guys all again. And sorry this video was so long. But yeah, peace out.